I'm here at Mobile World Congress 2024, and I'm joined by Howard Watson, the Chief Security and Networks Officer of BT. That is the right way around, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Absolutely the wrong way around. So welcome, Howard. Good to
Great
see you
to be
again.
here, Ian. Thank you.
Doing our regular video slot.
Indeed we are.
I mean, there's lots going on as usual, but I think one of the big themes, not maybe a surprise, but AI and its use in the networks.
And generative AI.
And generative AI is
yes.
quite a big topic this year. And so they're keen to pick your brain, because the story on generative AI so far, from my perspective, has been very much about training these large language models in hyperscaler facilities using GPUs, and that's obviously been largely responsible for this growth in NVIDIA's share price. And I'm kind of wondering, are we moving on to a new stage? What comes next now that this has sort of been done in a way?
Yeah, I mean, the way it operates right now is you have to have these really large cluster farms of NVIDIA GPUs. And the reason they're very co-located is they're using a really low latency InfiniBand connecting them together between the compute platforms. What I would really want to see is at some point that shifting to Ethernet. So therefore you can start to distribute those GPUs into more and more locations. I mean, my vision is ultimately, we could host small GPU clusters in the network. You could use them for the training phase of generative AI.
Okay.
And then for the inference phase, lots of opportunities in how we distribute the compute across the network. But I guess in summary, the theme I'm really seeing is, the networks have always been known for connectivity. I think we're becoming a distributed computing platform. Okay,
so just digging into that a bit, because a couple of the expressions there people might not be familiar with, but InfiniBand is quite a specific technology that NVIDIA is behind, is this right?
Yeah, essentially it's a layer 2 Ethernet-like communication path over fiber, characterized by lossless and really low latency. So it's ideal for connecting the compute platforms together.
Okay, and this was from Mellanox originally.
Exactly, and they did that acquisition, which was brilliant.
Yeah.
And it's given them a little bit of market power there.
Okay, and so is Ethernet suitable for doing the same thing? Because that's an opportunity that telcos play in, obviously.
Yes, it is. It needs some work, and it needs to be Ethernet where we are controlling the latency. So you're going to be careful how many router hops it goes through, but I think real opportunity there.
And is it a vision potentially to take some of these chips, some of the systems that have been used to do this training, and as you were suggesting, sort of put them out at the telco edge and do fancy things there with it instead?
I think so, yes. I mean, I think it's still yet to be seen whether the training will happen at the telco edge. I'm convinced the inference piece of it will happen at telco edge.
So inference, this is another one I think some people are getting.
Once you've built, so you have a large language model.
Yep.
You've then got to train it on your data, and that's where the GPU piece comes in. Once you've got that trained model, inference then is the questions that you ask it.
Okay.
And that piece then is less GPU heavy, more traditional CPU potentially. Okay. And so I absolutely believe we can have that much closer to the end user at the edge. I also think, though, the GPU part of it, the training part of it, there'll be customers who would quite like that much closer to them rather than off in a cloud somewhere. And I think that's how it will evolve.
And is that driven by things like sovereignty concerns and this sort of thing?
And just your data, wanting to, if you look at workloads in the cloud, they've probably achieved about 30% now. Yeah. Customers are holding on to sensitive data and keeping them in their environment, and I think that will continue.
Yeah, and options other than, because I know a few people I've spoken to here are saying, NVIDIA's, the word monopoly I don't think it's quite been thrown out, but it certainly seems to have that all-powerful position in GPUs. But do you see other options coming down the mix for chips?
We're hearing ARM talking about it now, which is great to see. So I do think there will be other options. But as you say, NVIDIA have managed to create a great lead for themselves.
And maybe just one more question on the sort of AI stuff. But in terms of the kind of applications that might be delivered at the edge, telco could potentially get involved in. Maybe there's even some revenue opportunity. Can you think of anything that springs to mind?
Yeah, I think of it in two ways, really. There's ways of reducing cost in running networks. So, dark network operations center, using AI to really understand how our network topology works, and being able to carefully, maybe with human confirmation, take action under failure mode. So that's a real opportunity of reducing, costs to run networks. But then also the monetization side. I think we are, if you're walking around the show here, there's lots of AI hubs being talked about with use cases and a new developer environment emerging. And I think they'll be quite highly video intensive. So if you can think about recognizing yourself in the home and taking action in the room depending on who's walked into the room, it's important that data doesn't leave your house. But I think there's certainly some applications there.
I know. Going back to NVIDIA, they've been talking about this kind of AI plus RAN use case that's got some traction, I think, with SoftBank. But that looks quite interesting to a few operators, it seems.
No, and that is a great use case we're seeing here emerging.
Yeah, and maybe just to finish off, we always talk about the Gs, obviously, and you love the Gs. So, so 6G? The topic of 6G, which there's not been in
2032.
In 2032, but there's not been as much on 6G this year, perhaps, as
good, isn't it?
There wasn't last year. Is it? I mean, what's your kind of position on 6G at the moment? I know you're involved in the NGN.
I'm on the board of NGN, and I absolutely buy into the fact that please let's not make it a hardware refresh.
Right.
There'll be different spectrum that will need to put new radio units out there, and I think it's probably the catalyst for Open RAN at scale.
Okay.
So there'll be some changes there, but let's not make it an essential part of launching the capabilities that we have to go and rebuild the macro network.
Okay, so hardware will eventually need replacing, but you can do it piecemeal and not have to just go and do one big
not like
massive
we had to do for
swap out.
5G.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll drink to that. Howard, thanks very much for joining me, and let's do it again next year.
We will, of course, Ian. Thank you.